In the name of Jesus, we continue to study Book of Genesis. Yesterday we stopped at chapter 19, right? So we are going to cover hope from chapter 20. Okay, so this outline is another stumble of faith. Let's turn to chapter 20. Chapter 20. Let's read verse 1 to 7. 1 to 7. Okay. Ivan, you read, please. Thank you. So, in this passage, we see how this is Abimelech, the king of Philistine. They saw Sarah, and then consider she is a beautiful woman, right? And the king threw her away. So intention is to make Sarah become maybe one of his concubines. Okay, so God intervened. Sarah and also Abraham, they still call each other brother and sister, right? And now, even though God already promised them they will have a child. And at this moment, how old is she? How old is she? We said already. How old? Because Sarah will give birth of Isaac at age of 90, right? So basically, at this moment, it could be if 1 year previous, right? Before, about 89, huh? 89-year-old woman is still beautiful and so attractive. Can you imagine? But in reality, in chapter 18, when God visited them and especially delivered a message to Sarah about God's promise, right? Next year, this time, you will have a child. Abraham and Sarah themselves, they could not believe because chapter 18, verse 11, special mention. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and were stricken in ages. in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. Right? So, it's just like once you pass a certain age, out of the period for being able to bear a child, your countenance, your totality just be very different. But consider, at this time, the age of 89, Sarah's just like a revived, become a still very attractive woman. Who make this happen? God, right? So when God promised Abraham and Sarah to have a child, from impossible to possible, God make all the things together. Okay, so still, Abraham, he failed to trust God in everything. He's still concerned about his own life. And the second time, he put Sarah in a very dangerous situation. But remember, no Sarah, no child. This is God's principle. And all the descendants of Abraham must come from Sarah. And she is the key. She is the key. Later, we find out Abraham at the age of 140 and beyond, he still can have children with another woman. Right? But Sarah, this is the only one. And this is God's promise and also God's miracle. Okay? So, sometimes in our mind, we know God is great, God is almighty. But in reality, we don't have that level of faith. So our faith cannot be applied into our life. Sometimes we just say one thing but do another thing. So that's why we have to cultivate ourselves and train, just to live out what we believe is very important. I believe your knowledge is much greater than your actions. We have learned a lot, but we have done too little. So we have to practice, from small things, and trust God. And you don't have to worry about the consequence because God will take care of it. Just like you heard the testimony of preacher, right? This out of faith and our life is at God's hand. If work not finished yet, no way. God can intervene in everything. Okay. All right. So God promised and also make an everlasting covenant with him and Sarah, but still no faith. And then God intervened. God came to Abimelech in a dream. Right? God showed, remember Job chapter 33? Right? God can reveal to a person, to a man, in one way or another. And one of the channel is through vision or dream. And God rebuked Abimelech. Indeed, you are a dead man. You have taken a man's wife, right? So now, Sarah, she became young again because God had to prepare her, be strong enough to bear a child in pregnancy. 10 months, right? 10 months of pregnancy. And age 89, 90, some may miscarry easily, right? And then have considered, once get birth of child, the mother have to take care of the baby. She needed to nourish him, right? And so she must be strong enough and make sure the baby have to grow up as an adult. If Sarah just gave birth of baby and then a few years later passed away. What a tragedy, what a sadness to the child, right? So God prepared Sarah. This is called God's promise, and God's blessing is complete. She needed to be strong enough, young enough to bear a child, deliver and give birth of a child. We don't know how big the Isaac is, but some baby is quite big. At that time, no C-section, sorry. Everyone have to be birthed to mother. So in the Genesis, we see how Rachel eventually, she passed, right? Because of deliverance baby. It's a difficulty, and then she just died. But Sarah, God promised her, so she have an ability to have a 4 weeks mature a baby and then deliver it. After that, she have to raise the child up until he is mature. Okay, so we know we will cover it in chapter 23. Okay, so God will protect, and God also intervened, even though Abraham he was weak. God protect those who belong to Him, and because God already said, right? And I am your shield. God keep His word. God keep His promise, but Abraham, he didn't. So if we are faithless, he remained faithful. He cannot deny himself. This is from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13. Always remember, as a human being, we may be faithless. But once God says so, He will definitely complete and make it. He is faithful. He cannot deny Himself. So we must have faith in God. Okay? Now, through the passage from verse 6 and 7, this is how God shows His nature, His divine nature to this Abimelech. Right? God said, yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart. Yes. But in reality, even though he is a king, but he's supposed not to just, if he saw someone is beautiful and then he just want to take the woman away. No, right? Still, his action is immoral. Cannot do that. Even though he has this kind of right, but to God it's not. So God knows our hearts. God knows this Abimelech, yes, because he considered she is available because not someone's wife, but in reality she did. Right? So I also withheld you from sinning against me. That's why God intervened the night. So God can keep us from sinning against Him. You know, sometimes God just silently do His work. God can perform anything in any time. Okay, so God can keep us. So the key is we have to really rely on God, pray to Him. If we really have a life of prayer, every day we remember to pray to God. You know, sometimes we may fall into a temptation. God can intervene and save us out of the danger. Okay. So God said, therefore, I did not let you touch her. So God can intervene on our behalf. Okay. Number 4, if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, and you and all who are yours. God wants everyone to obey his commandment, and he always shows us the consequence. Just like God commanded Adam and Eve to not eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge and evil, right? And if you eat it, then you surely die. The consequence is always very clear, but sometimes we doubt, we consider, maybe God is love, God can forgive me, and maybe it's still okay. Don't make your own assumption. If God say it, then it will be definitely 100%, no discount. Okay, so make sure we really treat God's word. It is, not it may be. Okay. So this is a spiritual lesson we needed to learn. When Abraham said, "She is my sister," God already promised them a couple times, and God is able to make Sarah return to the days of her youth. I mentioned it. And also, this is something related to, let's read Psalm 103. Psalm 103. Job 33, we read the previous time in the prayer section. So let's read Psalm 103, verse 1 to verse 5. Verse 1 to verse 5. Okay. I can, Brother Ethan Huang, please read. (103) verse 1 to 5. Thank you. Remember God's blessing and God's promise. God, He can forgive our iniquity. He heals all our disease. He redeemed our life from destruction. And then He crowned us with loving kindness and tender mercy. He satisfies us with good things, okay? And then our youth can be renewed like the eagle. This is how good our God is. And if we really can trust Him, even though you may getting older, you consider, I'm old. But no, God can make it, just make something so surprise. Impossible could be possible. Okay? So now we know from human perspective, we will definitely die one day. But we understand we are alive because it's just physically we return to dust. But our life, our soul return to God. Always we are alive. So that's why we say we sleep, but we will wake up again. Resurrection is there. Okay, so this is God's work. And we have to really trust God. Let's turn to Isaiah 40. Isaiah 40. Remember, this is what God said. verse 29 to 31. Isaiah 40, 29 to 31. Now this time I ask Ethan Lin. Please read. Read out loud, louder. Okay, thank you. This is promise. Every time when you feel you are weak, you are almost stumble. This is what we're supposed to do. Return to God, wait, and God will strengthen us, renew us. And then we can walk and not faint. Okay, so this is very important. Praise is he who belongs to God. You can compare Abraham and Abimelech. These two men, right? Abimelech, he is king. Abraham, he is sojourner. He's just a stranger, came to this place, try to find a place to tent, to survive. Basically, according to the background, we know it could be a famine in the area. So Abraham and his family moved to this the territory of Abimelech. So we know basically Abraham, he didn't have faith, to trust God in all things. But God didn't rebuke him at all. Remember? If you read chapter 20, God didn't say anything about his failure. But instead, God specially informed Abimelech, you have to return his wife to him. If you don't, then you will die. Right? And he is a prophet. He will pray for you. So you must acknowledge it. He is not an ordinary people. He belongs to me. He is mine. Okay? So you better do not touch him and his wife. That's what God meant, right? So if we consider we belong to God, sometimes we sin against God, or we may make some iniquity. Consider God is silent. God didn't rebuke you, right? Some of us still looking for, if I have done something wrong, but supposedly God can rebuke me, say something to me, but how come God didn't? So, at that time, we may say, it could be okay because God keeps silence. God didn't make any comment. Remember, God can use others to say something and really to reveal your heart. God can do things one way or another. Right? God doesn't need to do everything by himself. Right? He has so many servants, angels, workers. Okay? So God didn't rebuke Abraham. Instead, God let Abimelech know that Abraham is a prophet, and now God is a wonderful counselor. So God used Abimelech rebuke Abraham later. But you see how they are different. God treasured Abraham so well because he is the person God choose and make covenant with him. Through him, all the mankind have hope. Without him, we have no hope at all. Okay, so consider your identity. I belong to Jesus. And don't just treat yourself. You want to get along with your friend Sometimes in this age, we are afraid of if you cannot be accepted by your peers, right? Sometimes we compromise our standard, our faith, in order to be accepted, to fit in the circle. But have you ever considered who they are and who you are? Right? You are different. They can do whatever they want. God doesn't care. Right? Unless they commit a criminal, the government will care. But if they did anything in their heart, seems okay. But to us, no. So don't just lower ourselves to be just like the Gentiles. We have a higher standard. We know our goal. Don't just be sad. Say, oh, if my friend reject me. You see, you have to tell what kind of work they are doing. If they reject you because you hold on your faith, thank God. We suffer for Jesus. We are blessed, and actually we can receive the glory even greater than before. Okay, we heard the testimony already, right? So this is the standard. We belong to Jesus. Okay. Now, in verse 9, let's read. I think because of time, I hope you have read yourself. We don't need to repeat it. In the morning, Abimelech called Abraham in. And then he just said to him, right, in verse 9, what have you done to us? Right? How have I offended you that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done this to me that ought not to be done. What a shame. When Abraham heard the Gentile king say this thing to him. Isn't it? Because even a Gentile, they have the standard. They know this thing is supposed not to be done. You cannot do that way. Right? How have I offended you that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? What is the sin? What is great sin here? What do you think? Okay. Huh? Say again. Adultery. Yes. Because Abraham just begged Abimelech become someone, steal and take others' wife. Right? This is called greedy. This is called adultery. Right? We cannot. So remember, even Gentiles, they could be very conservative. They are very care about their heart, their deed. As a disciple of Jesus, we supposed to have an even higher standard. So whenever, if you see your friend can read Bible, remember the message of Bishop Huang, right? In the military, he called it another church is a Christian, right? In the free time, he read Bible. He just isolate himself, not doing this evil thing with the peers. And then, as a teacher, she remember, he even don't have this kind of the habit. Right? He felt ashamed. If the Christians can do that, how can I not do it even better? Right? So let us really find our identity and know what we're supposed to be done. Okay? If we don't trust God and His promise, if we deal with crisis by our own concept, we might not only lose the witness, but also be a stumbling block to others. This is in Luke chapter 17, verse 1. We supposed to be the light of the world. So make sure our deed can glorify God. And not because someone stumbling block. Okay. So after that, then really Abraham prayed to God. And then God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants. Then they bore children again. So from this statement, then we know Abraham and Sarah, they live in the area maybe for a period of time, not too long. But at least all of the female or Abimelech's female servant and wife already find out something not right in their body, physically. They already find out, oh, it's different. Once this Abraham, this guy come in, and then suddenly their health just deteriorate. And then they realize something not right, but they don't know the reason, right? But the reason is, this is a sin, and this is a problem, because God intervened. Okay? And then Abraham, he prayed. So Abraham's prayer is effective because God says so. God wants him to pray for Abimelech and his family. And they got healed. So the king, the family can continue to reproduce. But consider Sarah still childless. She cannot bear children at the moment, right? So this effective intersection is important to Abraham's life, faith. Indeed, he prayed for them, and then this Abimelech's household, they can have children. See? So this make him aware, yes, what God commands that, right? And then it is. So this instance actually become a restored of his faith to God. And now he knows the word out of his mouth is very effective. And remember, I mentioned it before, be careful of what we say. We better say things or words full of faith. Don't say those words is lack of faith or not edify others. Okay? So let us cultivate ourselves and be careful of our deeds and also our words. Okay? God made this incident a lesson for him to grow. That's how God trained his people. Okay? So in everything, even though when we fail, we may lose faith, but this could be a turning point too. God used all the channels to make us grow because he cares. If God cares us, how can I not care about him? Let us change our attitude toward to his commandment. He cares. If we also care about what God said, we will be blessed even greater. Okay? Now, let's continue to chapter 21. 21, now, this promised son comes eventually for waiting so long. Now, this promise comes true. And then he just opened up another chapter of Abraham and Sarah's life, right? From verse 1 to 7, Sarah conceived and bore a son named Isaac according to God's command. And from verse 8 to 21, Hagar and Ishmael was cast forth, but was relieved and comforted by an angel. Yes, to Abraham, it is very hard to cast out his son Ishmael and the mother, because to Abraham, this Ishmael also a son, right? And they live in this house for at least Ishmael. Suppose it could be almost 20 Okay. And then from verse 22 to 34, Abraham and Abimelech make a covenant. Okay, so this is the outline. Let's go to the sum of the teaching in 21. Okay, God make impossible to possible. The faithful Lord visited Sarah and did it for Sarah. This is what Bible said. So Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the set time of God. God set time. And that's how she can really smoothly just deliver the baby. What a beautiful ending. Right? It especially says Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, when Abraham was old. Of course, Sarah also old. Right? Even harder for the Sarah to give birth of this child. Okay. Abraham obeyed what God said, called the name of his son Isaac. Remember, what is the meaning of Isaac? He left, right? And called Isaac. So every time Abraham called the name Isaac, he left. Right? So we have Isaac here, right? Isaac. He left. So Isaac must be always joyful. And people associate with him will also be joyful too. Hopefully our person just like a name. When your parents give you the name, they also have some expectation too. Yeah. Hopefully you can try to figure out why your parents name you the name. Right? Elijah, do you know why your father named you Elijah? Huh? Eli? Oh, okay. But you know Elijah, right? The powerful prophet, right? So fearless, so brave. This is, the name itself. Also, if you check the name, the Hebrew, the meaning of name. Each name have a meaning. Try to remember it. Okay, especially if your name comes from Bible, you can check the name, the meaning from Hebrew origin. Okay. All right. So then Abraham circumcised Isaac on the 8th day and followed God's commandment. And now Isaac become part of this covenant. Okay. All right. So the name Isaac, before Abraham and Sarah all left when God said so. They left in their heart, right? Secretly. But now, God has made laughter for me. Everyone who here will laugh with me. This is what Sarah said. Right? God has made laughter for me, Isaac. Everyone who hear this news will laugh with me together, so joyful. God turned the laughter of unbelief into the laughter of faith. So this is the turning, actually the really turning point for Sarah's faith, because what God says, true, come true. Okay. If we view verse 11 to 12, now, from laughing to be very displeasing, something happened. Now, in Abraham's house, two sons. Ishmael, and this time, probably 17 or 18, easily, because when Isaac is old enough to win, right, from the mother. So we say about 4 years, 5 years old, and be able to play with the older brother, right? And then the older brother Ishmael can mock with him, just can fight and then interact. If a baby, no way, right? So you all grow up. So how old you can fight with your brother sisters if you are the younger one. At least you have to be about 2, 3, or 4, and then you know how to fight. This is mine. Right? Okay, so now these two sons are not compatible to each other. Then because the mother, Sarah, already observed the influence and the problems in the family. So Ishmael, remember, a son of the flesh, right? A son of the flesh, out of man's will to please himself. And also, this Ishmael is someone always against others. Remember? Always against others. He cannot get along with others. So he is just like a wild man. But Isaac, the son of promise, out of God's will, by the promise of God. And now, the two sons in this house, and consider if the Isaac grow with the Ishmael, and what kind of personality he will turn to, and how does God's covenant promise can be carried out in the future. So we can see how the mother's wisdom, and then he or she can see things later. So then she supposed he suggests a thing for Abraham to do, and God agreed to her. Okay, let's take the break first, and then we continue next time. Let's say a silent prayer.